Welcome to Mind Like Space, a place where science floats like moonlight, and your thoughts can wander freely, without weight. Before we begin, take a breath. Look around you. Are you watching from a quiet bedroom? A city balcony beneath the stars? A desk glowing gently in the early hours? Tell me, where are you tuning in from tonight? Drop it in the comments below. Let us know your corner of the cosmos. Because here, you're not just watching. You're part of a constellation of quiet minds, all drifting together through time, thought, and wonder. If this journey soothes you, consider subscribing to Mind Like Space, so you never miss another night of calm discovery. Now, close your eyes if you wish, and let us begin tonight's slow journey into the stars. The night sky stretches out above you like a velvet canopy, stitched with stars. You lie still, your body grounded on Earth, but your mind, it rises. It floats. It opens gently to the hum of space. The further you let go, the quieter it becomes. Not silence as in nothingness, but silence as in stillness. As in peace. You drift past the curve of the moon, past the glinting planets, past the warmth of our sun. Each star you pass seems to pulse slowly, as if breathing in the dark. The further you go, the more stars appear, scattered lanterns across a canvas so vast, it doesn't seem real. But it is. And it's here, in this vastness, that the stillness speaks. Between the stars, there is space. Great oceans of it. You might think of space as empty, a void, but tonight, you learn to feel it differently. Space is not absence. It is presence. It stretches, it bends, it moves. And like a breath slowly drawn, it expands. The stars are not standing still. Everything, even the galaxies themselves, drifts apart, pulled gently by a force not of mass, not of gravity. It is a force that doesn't come from things, but from the very fabric of space itself. You feel it as a tide. A slow outward push, calm and patient. This push is everywhere. In every direction. Not fast like wind, but unstoppable, like the quiet growth of a tree or the spreading of light through fog. It doesn't roar. It whispers. Imagine holding a sheet of soft fabric between your fingers. You pull gently at the corners, and the weave stretches. Now imagine this fabric has no edge, no place where it begins, and no place where it ends. It simply is, and it grows. This is space. And something we call dark energy, is what pulls at the corners. You don't see it. You don't feel it with your skin. But your body, your world, your galaxy, they're all riding on this slow unfolding. Floating like autumn leaves in an unseen breeze. This energy does not shine. It doesn't reflect. It doesn't bounce or spark. But it makes the universe grow, makes the distances between stars stretch ever wider. The galaxies themselves aren't racing through space, space itself is carrying them apart. You might picture a balloon, speckled with dots. As the balloon inflates, the dots drift from one another, though they remain still on the surface. That surface is like our universe, only instead of 2 dimensions, it has 3, and instead of rubber, it is made of space and time. The galaxies, like the dots, are not flying away. They're being carried. And the air filling the balloon? That is dark energy. A pressure, not loud, not visible, but constant. You let this idea settle in. You imagine floating, not through space, but with it. Space as an ocean that swells and expands. You are not separate from it. You are inside it. Made of it. Everything you know, your hands, your heartbeat, your breath, made of particles born in stars, now traveling within this growing sea. The expansion is not violent. It is quiet and deep, like a breath drawn in slow motion. No edge. No explosion. just a stretching, steady and serene. And the space between stars, the stillness, it is part of the story. Not the background. Not empty at all. You may wonder, if the universe is expanding, why can't we feel it? Why don't the atoms in your body drift apart? Why doesn't Earth grow bigger? The answer lies in gravity, another quiet force, one you've known your whole life. Gravity binds things close, your feet to the ground, the moon to the Earth, the planets to the sun. And on small scales, like the scale of humans, or solar systems, gravity still wins. It holds. It keeps. But on the largest scales, across billions of light years, dark energy takes over. Its touch is soft, but its reach is wide. It doesn't break apart stars or galaxies, it separates the spaces between them. And so the universe expands, slowly, surely, beautifully. You float through this space now, calm and curious. You pass between galaxies like a feather between waves. Each one glowing with billions of stars, yet growing more distant by the moment. The darkness between them isn't cold. It's alive. Full of presence. Full of motion. There's no edge to this journey. No end to the map. Just a soft unfolding. Just light moving through space that itself is moving. And you, nestled in a small blue world, are part of that flow. This is your beginning, not in chaos, but in stillness. Not in loud discovery, but in quiet wonder. Tonight, you learn that space is not empty. It breathes. It moves. It carries everything. And dark energy, though silent and strange, is the hand guiding the dance. Let yourself float with it. Let the thought drift through you like starlight across a lake. The universe is growing, and you are growing with it. And if space is breathing, when did it first begin to stretch? What made it move for the very first time? You feel that question stir gently at the edges of your mind. Like the whisper of motion before it begins. In the beginning, there was no sky. No stars. No distance. No here and there, no points to measure between, no directions to point in. The universe was not full, it was folded. Not vast, but dense, smaller than a breath. Curled inward like a seed waiting to bloom. You float now, back through time. Not across years, but across everything. You are not moving through space, space itself is retreating, folding smaller as you drift. Galaxies blur and vanish. The stars collapse into sparks, into atoms, into flame. And then, even flame disappears. You arrive at a moment before moments. The beginning of everything, a time when the universe was not a place, but a condition, hot, bright, unimaginable. A cosmic heartbeat about to begin. From this cradle of light, the universe stretches, fast, then faster still. This is not an explosion, though it has often been called one. It is an unfolding, a swelling, like the sudden lift of dough in warm air. You drift beside it, feeling the motion not with your body, but with your awareness. There is no wind. No force pushing from a center. There is only space itself, becoming more. And with it, time begins. Time, that quiet stream you live inside, it wasn't ticking before this stretch. There was no before. There was only this, the universe learning to breathe. What made it begin? That question echoes softly, like a ripple through still water. And for now, you need no answer. Just the image, everything that will ever be, pressed into a single, glowing beginning. And then, release. You watch space expand like the surface of a soap bubble. Not from a center, but everywhere at once. Everywhere becomes farther from everywhere else. As if space is growing between its own threads. It stretches not like a rubber band being pulled, but like the air inside a balloon, filling evenly, invisibly. The galaxies aren't rushing through space. They're riding the wave of expansion itself. You pass through the early years, where matter cools and gathers. Where gravity begins its patient work, pulling clouds together. Shaping the first stars, building islands of light. But even then, even now, space continues to stretch. The distance between galaxies grows not because they move, but because the space between them is growing. And this is where something unusual begins. Long after the first light, long after stars are born, long after galaxies have spun their slow spirals, something hidden begins to rise in influence. It doesn't burn. It doesn't clump or swirl. It does not shine. But it pushes. This quiet pressure, this cosmic breath that keeps expanding space. You now know it by name, dark energy. It didn't show itself loudly. It took billions of years to make its mark. In the early universe, gravity pulled everything together. But slowly, subtly, the tide turned. Like a hand emerging from fog, dark energy began to shape the universe in a new direction. Not to gather, but to scatter. You feel this shift the way you might sense a change in the wind. Gentle, but inevitable. At first, scientists thought the expansion of the universe might slow. It made sense, gravity holds things close. And surely, over time, it would pull everything back together. A great cosmic inhale following the exhale. But it didn't. Instead, the expansion accelerated. The universe, like a child learning to run, began to move faster than expected. And what was driving this motion wasn't matter. It was something else. Something deeper. You drift now in that growing space, feeling its motion stretch across your skin. Not painful, not even perceptible in your body. But vast, quiet, eternal. This is not the kind of energy that powers machines or burns in stars. It's woven into space itself, like a tension in the threads of a fabric. When you pull a thread just slightly, the whole sheet changes. Stretch one corner, and the rest follows. Dark energy is like that. Not a force acting on the universe, but a feature of the universe. You begin to see it not as an intruder, but as a kind of presence that's always been here. Not separate from space, but born with it. Growing with it. Expanding with it. You float through this quiet expansion now. Your thoughts stretched like starlight. Your breath slowing with the rhythm of cosmic time. Nothing in your world feels this large. And yet, you are part of it. You belong to this expanding tapestry. The atoms in your chest, your hands, your heart. They drift gently in the current of space. Unaware. Unmoved. And yet, carried. Carried by the same force that expands galaxies. The same breath that made time begin. You find a kind of comfort in this. Not all motion must be loud. Not all change must be seen. Some of the deepest truths move quietly. Like sleep. Like space. Like dark energy. And now, as the stars drift ever farther, you ask yourself, what holds them together at all? What power remains that resists the stretch? The pull that gathers, the force that says stay close. Your thoughts float toward gravity now. Toward its quiet tug beneath your feet. And its endless battle with the breath of space. And you wonder, as you drift deeper, what happens when gravity and dark energy begin to disagree? You rest now in the soft pause between forces. Above you, galaxies turn like slow dancers, arms outstretched. Drawn inward by gravity, the ancient puller of all things. Below that pull, underneath it, a counterforce rises, quieter, but growing. This is where you begin to feel the tension. Not a clash. Not a fight. But a balance, a slow, unfolding conversation. Gravity speaks in closeness. Dark energy speaks in distance. You feel gravity every day. in the way your feet press softly into the earth, in the way the moon tugs the oceans, in the way your body has weight, not as a burden, but as a belonging. Gravity is the gatherer, the collector of dust and dreams. It brings particles together, holds them tight, shapes planets, stars, and you. Imagine a net made of velvet, gentle and invisible, wrapping around everything that has mass. That is gravity. It pulls not to crush, but to cradle. Dark energy, on the other hand, has no shape you can feel. It does not collect or cling. It stretches what gravity pulls. It opens what gravity folds. And yet, it is not loud. It does not scatter galaxies like shrapnel. It simply lets space grow. You picture two dancers on a stage. One moving inward, circling tightly, and the other spinning outward, arms wide. Both moving to the same silent rhythm. That rhythm is the universe. Gravity wants to slow things down, to keep everything close, to hold on. Like the embrace of a parent at bedtime. But dark energy wants to move. It stretches the cradle, not to throw the child away, but to widen the sky above the crib. You feel these two forces within yourself. Your bones obey gravity. They rest, they root. But your thoughts, they drift outward, into the sky, expanding like space itself. And this is what the universe feels now. In the earliest days, gravity ruled. It sculpted stars, carved galaxies, shaped the early cosmos into beautiful spirals and glowing clusters. Its arms wrapped around everything, saying, "Stay close." But dark energy was waiting. Not new, but quiet. It waited until the stars were formed, until galaxies spun like slow hurricanes of light. And then, as distances grew, it began to pull apart what gravity had brought together. Not violently, just enough. Just slightly. A slow drift. Like the loosening of a grip. Like the soft exhale after a long inhale. Now, the two forces share the stage. One still tries to gather. The other gently insists on letting go. And the result is the universe you live in. Expanding, but structured. Scattered, but shaped. Galaxies still form. Stars still ignite. But the spaces between them grow. You drift now between clusters of galaxies. You watch as some still fall toward one another. Gravity's voice, still strong. But between the larger voids, you feel the outward swell. Gravity has its limits. It weakens with distance. But dark energy, it remains steady. Its pressure doesn't thin. Imagine tying two balloons together. Gravity is the string that binds them. Dark energy is the air between them, expanding slowly, pushing them apart with each breath. And though the string may hold for now, you know, gently, the space between will grow. This is not a war. It's a relationship. Two truths coexisting. One holds things together. The other invites them to let go. And in between, you, a small being on a small planet, held by gravity, bathed in dark energy. You don't feel the stretch. You don't notice the drift. But it's there. In the long span of time. In the slow steps of galaxies. You sleep under the stars. But those stars are walking away. Slowly. Silently. As if the universe is giving everything more room to dream. And still, gravity holds what it can. The solar system. The Earth. You. It says, stay close a little longer. And the universe listens. But for how long? For how long will gravity be strong enough to hold? Will dark energy continue to rise? To push, to stretch, to open? You feel the question settle like dust on your skin. Not urgent, not frightening. Just vast. Just real. You close your eyes and imagine the balance shifting. Not today, not tomorrow, but across billions of years. There may come a time when gravity no longer wins the small battles, when the stretch overtakes the pull. And what then? What becomes of galaxies, of stars, of closeness? You wonder, as the stars above drift gently outward. What if the universe is speeding up with more and more, forever? You open your eyes inside the quietest place imaginable. No stars here. No planets. No drifting dust or glowing gas. Only the hush between galaxies. A space that appears empty, infinite, and still. But tonight, you learn to listen deeper. Because even silence can have texture. Even nothing can have shape. You float in a vacuum. The kind once imagined as pure emptiness. A place where nothing lives, nothing moves. And nothing could ever begin. But science has shown us otherwise. This vacuum, this nothing, is more than it seems. It is not a void. It is a canvas. It does not echo, it pulses. And here, in this inky stillness, you begin to feel the truth. Space itself is alive. Not in the way living things are. There is no heartbeat, no breath. But space has structure. It has energy. It has its own quiet laws, its own rhythm. It stretches. It curves. It changes. You reach out. Not with your hands, but with your awareness. And you sense it. A gentle vibration beneath the quiet. Dark energy lives here, in this invisible sea. It does not need particles. It does not need stars or heat or gravity. It exists wherever space exists. And space is everywhere. So dark energy is everywhere, too. You picture it not as a wave. Not as a spark, but as pressure. A soft outward push. Present in every cubic inch of space. From the tiniest gap between atoms to the vast emptiness between galaxies. It's not energy like fire, or motion like wind. It is the kind of energy that doesn't rush. It simply is. Scientists once believed that if you removed everything from a room, all air, all matter, all light, you'd be left with true emptiness. But quantum physics changed that story. Even the most perfect vacuum hums with possibility. Particles flicker in and out of existence. Born and gone in a heartbeat of time. This is known as the quantum vacuum. A restless, restless field that never truly sleeps. And perhaps, somewhere in that restlessness, dark energy makes its home. Some say it's a constant woven into the fabric of space-time itself, like tension stretched across the loom of the universe. Others wonder if it's a field spread like mist across the cosmos. And still, some ask if we understand it at all, or if we've only glimpsed its shadow, measured its pull by the way galaxies drift apart. But tonight, you don't need to solve it. You only need to float with it. To feel the possibility that even nothing can hold deep mystery. You begin to imagine space not as a backdrop, but as a substance. Not empty like a jar with no contents, but full of stretch, full of subtle power, full of dark energy. You drift through this space and see it differently now. Not as a cold nothingness, but as a field of gentle pressure. A tide that shapes the stars without ever touching them. It is what makes the universe grow. Not because something is being added, but because space itself is unfolding. Like a painter adding canvas as the painting expands. Like a dream that grows longer even as you sleep deeper. you begin to see a strange kind of logic. The emptier space becomes, the more powerful this energy seems. As if letting go of matter reveals the true motion of the cosmos. The galaxies are islands, yes, but they are carried by an ocean that stretches without end. You are floating in that ocean now. And though you cannot see it, you are not alone in it. Everything you have ever known is moving with you. Slowly outward, softly apart. Dark energy is not the shape of things. It is the shape of between. It is the force that reminds the universe not to collapse inward, but to keep reaching outward. You feel it now, like a breath you didn't know you were taking. A quiet pressure, always there, not weighing you down, lifting the space around you, expanding the room in which existence happens. And in this growing space, there is no center, no edge, only more space, more time, more distance between things that once seemed close, yet nothing feels torn apart, only widened, only softened. You begin to feel a strange comfort here, in the idea that even nothing can be full. That silence can shape the song. And maybe that's the role of dark energy. Not to explain everything, but to remind you that some truths are quieter than others. Some truths lie in the pause, in the space between stars, in the growing hush of deep time. As you drift deeper into that hush, your thoughts turn gently toward the minds that first sensed this presence. Not with their eyes, but with mathematics, with light, with the smallest whispers of redshift. You wonder who first dared to say, what if the universe is not slowing down, but speeding up? And as that thought brushes softly across your mind, you begin to drift toward the next question. Wrapped in starlight, carried by space, who was the first to hear the universe whisper and change their mind about what it meant to be still? The night sky above you is wide and slow. Stars hang still, or so they seem, and you drift beneath them like a leaf on a river of thought. Tonight, you are not only floating through space, but also through time, through memory, through the quiet places where ideas are born. Somewhere in the early 20th century, a mind more curious than most looks up, not with wonder, but with worry. His name is Albert Einstein. And the universe he imagines is too still, too quiet to be trusted. He does not yet know about dark energy. He does not yet see galaxies moving apart. His universe, like the stars above ancient deserts, must remain fixed, balanced, eternal. And so, to hold it steady, he adds something, a patch, a stitch in the fabric. A constant. A symbol, lambda, lambda. A small mark to keep the universe from drifting. This cosmological constant isn't a force in the usual sense. It doesn't pull like gravity. It doesn't flow like wind. It simply sits within his equations, holding space in place, like a whisper pressed between lines of poetry. He creates it reluctantly. He doesn't love the idea, but his math insists. If the universe contains only matter and gravity, it should collapse inward. And yet it hasn't. It still stands. It still breathes. So, to balance gravity's pull, Einstein imagines a push. Not from stars, not from particles, but from the fabric of space itself. At the time, there was no evidence for expansion. No Hubble. No redshift. No dark energy. Einstein believes the universe is static, neither growing nor shrinking. And to preserve that image, he plants his constant like a quiet tree in the garden of physics. You sit now under that tree, listening to the wind of thought rustle its leaves. Not long after, telescopes catch galaxies drifting apart. The universe is not fixed. It is flying, expanding, faster than anyone had imagined. Einstein hears this and sighs. He calls the cosmological constant his greatest blunder, an unnecessary patch, a solution to a problem that didn't exist. But the story doesn't end there. Because decades later, astronomers return to the sky and see something strange. The galaxies aren't just moving, they're accelerating. The universe isn't coasting, it's speeding up. And suddenly, that old symbol, lambda, no longer seems like a mistake. It begins to glow again, not as a blunder, but as a key. Maybe Einstein was right in ways even he didn't understand. Maybe the constant wasn't just a mathematical patch, but the first glimpse of dark energy. You sit now with this idea, letting it rest on your chest like a warm stone. Even the greatest minds stumble. Even genius guesses. And sometimes, guesses echo for 100 years before the universe answers back. There's something comforting in that. Knowing that science is not a straight line, but a spiral. Not a climb, but a drift. A quiet walk through unlit corridors, guided only by questions. Einstein's constant, small as it was, planted a question so big, it's still blooming today. What is this energy that fills space? Is it truly constant? Does it come from quantum fields? Is it woven into the nature of vacuum itself? No one knows for sure. And that unknowing is part of the wonder. You imagine Einstein alone in his study, scribbling in candlelight, shifting equations, chasing beauty through numbers. He wanted the universe to be still, predictable, symmetric. But the universe is alive, and life rarely stands still. You feel that same resistance in yourself sometimes. The wish for things to stay steady, unchanging. But just as space expands, so must your thoughts. So must your questions. And tonight, you float with that thought. That sometimes we must create room in our minds for things we don't yet understand. Einstein made such room. And though he doubted it later, his constant may have been the first whisper of a much larger truth. A truth that says, space is not a stage. It is a player. It grows. It moves. It breathes. And maybe, just maybe, this constant push, this quiet stretch, is not a mistake, but a feature, a gift. You float now, carried by equations and ink, drifting from the past into the present, from thoughts written in chalk to galaxies glowing in telescopes. Lambda is no longer just a symbol. It is a thread, connecting Einstein to you, linking minds across time, all asking the same soft question. What lies beneath this cosmic breath? You do not need an answer tonight. Only the comfort of knowing that even the wisest minds walk slowly through mystery. You listen to the hum of expanding space and feel the tug of your own small questions. And as you drift deeper, you hear light calling from the far reaches. What if the galaxies themselves are speaking, and we're only just learning how to listen? You lie still now, as though floating in a deep lake of stars. Above you, pinpricks of light shimmer. Some bright, some dim, some blue-white, some golden. They feel immediate, present, close. But they are not. These stars have been shining toward you for millions, even billions of years. Their light has traveled through oceans of space to reach you. What you see is not the now of stars. but they're past, folded into photons. Tonight, you follow one of those photons. A single particle of light. It begins at the edge of a galaxy far beyond your reach. Perhaps it was born in the violent flare of a supernova, or the soft glow of a distant sun. It bursts forth, swift and silent, leaving its home behind. And from that moment, its journey begins. Across space that isn't still, but swelling. This photon is fast, unimaginably so. It moves at the cosmic speed limit. 300,000 kilometers every second. And yet, no matter how fast it travels, space keeps stretching beneath it. Like a boat trying to cross a river. But the river widens as it rows. As the photon moves, the space between it and its destination grows longer. Not because the photon slows, but because the universe itself stretches. And something happens to the light. Its wave, its energy, begins to stretch too. The color shifts. What was once blue becomes red. What was once strong becomes soft. This is called redshift. Not a coloring of light, but a soft unraveling. A cosmic breath that lengthens each wave. You picture a violin string played gently in the night. As the air stretches, the note deepens. This is what happens to starlight. On its way to you. Every galaxy that drifts farther away sends you light that has reddened. Light that has stretched in step with the universe itself. And this is how we learn the universe is expanding. Not by seeing galaxies move like cars on a road, but by listening to how their light has changed. 100 years ago, an astronomer named Edwin Hubble looked through his telescope and saw the first whispers of redshift. The farther a galaxy was, the redder its light appeared, the faster it seemed to recede. It wasn't the galaxies moving through still space. It was space growing between them. And the light, patient and ancient, carried the message. Even now, light from distant places tells us space is expanding. The universe is stretching. But more than that, light tells us how fast. It shows us that this stretching is accelerating. That the space between galaxies isn't just widening. It's widening faster and faster. Like a whisper rising into a wind. And this is where dark energy leaves its fingerprint. Not directly. Not in heat or motion. But in redshift. It pulls on light. By pulling on space, it stretches distance. And in doing so, stretches the light that travels within it. You feel this truth wash over you now. Soft, subtle. The idea that even light, the swiftest, most weightless thing, can grow weary. Not from time, but from space itself changing shape. The photons you see in the sky are stretched memories. They have traveled through a living universe. A universe that has lengthened their journey and softened their voice. You think about how many of those photons never reach anyone. How many fall into darkness, endlessly traveling, carrying stories that may never be read. But tonight, a few reach you. They brush against your eyes and disappear into your mind. Whispers from a time before humans, before Earth, before much of what you know. And in that gentle contact, you carry their message forward. You begin to wonder if light can stretch across billions of years, if it can endure the expansion of space itself. What else can stretch? What else can carry memory through change? Maybe time. Maybe thought. Maybe love. These, too, seem weightless. These, too, travel far. These, too, stretch and bend with the shape of what surrounds them. As you drift now in this ocean of soft starlight, you understand that every twinkle you see isn't just a point of brightness. It is a map, a measure, a message. The stars are not only shining, they are speaking. Their light records the breath of space itself. And somewhere, in the long, quiet red of a distant galaxy, dark energy moves. Not as a wind, not as a flash, but as a slow unfolding. The kind that changes everything, without ever needing to be seen. You float now in a moment both ancient and new. The stars above are drifting. Their light stretches toward you, and somewhere between their beginning and your now, space has grown. You feel it in your chest, not as fear, but as vastness, as awe. You close your eyes again, and see not darkness, but light in motion, stories being carried, forever unfolding. And you wonder, softly, as galaxies drift and stars grow faint, what will happen to light if space never stops expanding? You open your eyes to the most ancient night, a sky not yet empty, but growing quieter with every breath. The stars are still there, but they shimmer farther now, as if gently walking away. Time folds differently here, not in years or decades, but in cosmic heartbeats, eras measured in the slow drift of light. Tonight, you do not float through space. You float through future, not a fiction, but a science-bound tomorrow, woven from numbers, from measurements, from what we already know. Dark energy does not sleep. It does not slow. Its push continues, gently, persistently, like breath that never stops exhaling. And because of that breath, galaxies drift, not in rebellion, not in haste, but in silence across a stretching sea. Tonight, you imagine Earth in that far future. Perhaps it still spins. Perhaps new minds have risen. Eyes turned upward, searching the stars as you do now. But the stars, they are gone. Not extinguished. Not collapsed. Just vanished from view. Like fireflies in a field where the horizon keeps widening, each flicker moving farther away, until even the glow disappears. This is what dark energy does. Not through violence, not through fire, but through expansion that never ends. One by one, the galaxies cross a horizon. Not a line in the sky, but a boundary drawn by time and speed. Beyond that horizon, their light can no longer reach us. Not because they stop shining, but because space stretches faster than light can cross it. Imagine trying to run toward someone, while the ground beneath you doubles with every step. Eventually, no matter how fast you run, you fall behind. This is the future of light. This is the fate of stars. And so, in trillions of years, the sky may grow dark again. Not because the stars have burned out, but because we can no longer see them. Their light will never reach us. It will stretch and stretch and stretch, until it vanishes into wavelengths too long to detect. The universe, once ablaze with light, returns to shadow, but not the cold shadow of nothing. The soft, humming shadow of distance, of memory pulled too thin to touch. You lie beneath this imagined sky now, one that holds only the local stars. Perhaps only one galaxy remains visible. All the rest have slipped beyond the reach of sight. What would you think, looking up? What stories would you believe? Would you know how vast it once was? Would the silence make you wonder? It's possible the future sky will lie. It may say, this is all there is. Not out of cruelty, but limitation. And yet, Perhaps someone will remember. Perhaps ancient records survive. Mathematics and telescopes and dreams. From when the sky was still full. And that mind, resting under the dark, might whisper, "Once, there were more." You feel the ache of that whisper. But you also feel its beauty. Because to know what was is its own kind of light. It is memory. It is science. It is the candle in the hand of time. And it burns even when the stars fade. You think now of the galaxies drifting outward. Not lost, just unreachable. They continue to exist. To spin, to shine. Beyond a boundary we cannot cross. You wonder, does that boundary grow forever? Is there a limit to the stretch? Will dark energy ever stop? Or is this our fate? To live in a universe that grows too large to see? Too quiet to remember its own brightness? Even now, scientists measure the redshift of distant galaxies and see the future unfolding. A future in which the cosmic web thins. A future in which light cannot keep up. You do not fear this. You lie calmly, listening to the breath of space, understanding that endings are not always tragic. Some are simply slow. Some are soft. And in that softness, there is a kind of wonder. Because here you are, in a time where the stars still sing, where light still arrives, where the sky still tells the full story. And that means something. That is a gift. You breathe it in. The presence of starlight, the nearness of galaxies, the knowledge that you still live in a visible universe. And as you drift deeper, the question rises again. Not sharp, not urgent, but gentle as sleep. If one day the stars vanish from view, what becomes of our story then? You lie on your back beneath the stillness, and imagine holding a ruler up to the stars. A gentle, impossible thought, measuring space not in inches, but in changes. Tonight is about seeing what cannot be seen, and trusting what moves without being touched. Dark energy has no shimmer, no color, no shadow. You cannot bottle it, cannot find it floating between atoms. And yet, you know it's there, because of how the universe behaves. You begin with the stars that die in light. Far from here, in galaxies long ago, some stars end not in collapse, but in brilliant farewell. These are type Ia supernovae, stellar explosions that burst with perfect brightness. So precise, so reliable. They are used as cosmic beacons. Imagine a lighthouse blinking across time. Wherever it shines, you know how bright it should be. So if the light you see is dimmer, you know the lighthouse is farther. This is how astronomers measure distance. Not with ropes or yardsticks, but with light's fading voice. Two scientists, long before your sleep tonight, gathered hundreds of these starbursts. They watched the light arrive. Redshifted, softened, stretched. They expected to find galaxies slowing down, falling inward under gravity's embrace. But what they saw instead was motion increasing. The galaxies weren't drifting. They were racing. Not away from some center, but away from each other. And the farther they were, the faster they fled. This was no error. It was a message. Something unseen was pushing space apart. Something gentle and vast. Something we would come to call dark energy. You feel it now? Not in your body, but in your knowing. A presence that isn't present. A force that can only be measured by what it moves. So we listen. Not with ears, but with telescopes. With charts, with numbers written in quiet notebooks. We look at ancient galaxies as they flicker like candles on a windy path. And we map their journey. Where are they now? How fast are they going? What shape does space take around them? Some look for baryon acoustic oscillations, the faint fingerprints left in matter, from sound waves that pulse through the early universe. These ripples are like fossilized music, trapped in the arrangement of galaxies. And from their pattern, we learn how space has stretched. How fast? How far? Others measure the cosmic microwave background, the leftover glow from the universe's first light. This glow is not warm. It is not bright. But it blankets all of space and carries clues about what came before. Tiny fluctuations in that ancient light tell us how energy moved, how gravity gathered, and how something else, dark, ungraspable, pushed. These are not loud discoveries. They do not arrive with drumbeats. They arrive with quiet consensus, the kind that builds slowly, like stars rising at dusk. You imagine the scientists sitting in their labs at midnight, coffee cold, minds open, looking not for things, but for patterns, because that is what science is. Not just answers, but noticing. Dark energy is the great noticing. We do not see it, but we see what it changes. We do not feel it, but we feel the consequences of its stretch. It is like watching curtains drift in wind, without hearing the breeze. Like seeing footprints appear in snow, with no figure in sight. You lie still, letting this truth settle into you, that some of the most powerful forces never show their face. You begin to wonder, if we can measure the invisible, what else do we miss? Just because we don't yet know how to listen? Maybe there are forces inside your own mind, your own breath, that shape your life gently, quietly, the way dark energy shapes galaxies. Maybe some truths are not made to be held in hands, but in questions. And so we keep measuring, not to control, but to understand. You lie still beneath the blanket of space, wrapped in the hush between galaxies. You have felt the stretch. You've seen the way light grows long and tired. You've heard how space itself breathes wider each moment. And now, the question rises. Not loud, not urgent, but steady as a tide. What is dark energy, really? You are not the first to ask. And tonight, you will not answer. But you will explore, gently, curiously, like fingertips brushing across ancient pages. The simplest idea is that dark energy is a cosmological constant. A quiet, unchanging pressure, built into the very fabric of space. Like a seam sewn through the universe, pulling outward, evenly, everywhere. Einstein proposed this constant once, then doubted it. Now it returns, not as an error, but as a candidate for truth. If this idea is correct, then dark energy doesn't grow, doesn't shift. It simply is. A still pressure, woven into the tapestry of space-time itself. But not everyone agrees. Another thought floats in. What if dark energy is a field? Not a constant hum, but a dynamic, invisible substance, changing gently over time. Physicists imagine this as quintessence, a kind of energy that fills the cosmos. Like a fog, light and drifting, not fixed like the cosmological constant, but living. Quintessence would rise and fall, like tides in slow motion, reacting to the universe's shape, its curvature, its age. And if it changes over time, then the fate of the cosmos may also change. You begin to imagine a field stretching across space, responding to gravity, shifting its strength as stars age and galaxies wander. Is it made of particles? No one knows. Perhaps it's a property, not a thing. Perhaps it doesn't need mass to have influence. Still more theories drift into the night. What if we misunderstand gravity itself? Some wonder if dark energy isn't energy at all, but a flaw in how we describe gravity. On the grandest scales, maybe Newton's apple and Einstein's curvature are only part of the story. Maybe gravity weakens differently than we think, across billions of light years. So what looks like a repelling force might be gravity behaving in a way we never expected. And then there are bolder thoughts, ideas that stretch further still. What if we live inside a bubble universe, surrounded by others? What if the apparent acceleration we see is shaped by what lies outside our cosmic patch? We cannot see those other bubbles, but maybe their influence tugs at us, like a current below the surface of calm water. Each theory is a lantern, not a map. They light the path forward, but none yet tells us where the path ends. And so you float here, between possibilities. Constant, field, flaw, or fabric. Dark energy remains elusive, but not unknowable. It is the kind of mystery that deepens rather than frustrates, like a melody that haunts more sweetly, because it never resolves. You lie in the quiet and wonder what it means to live in a universe that grows more mysterious the more we learn. Perhaps this is not a problem. Perhaps this is the beauty of science. Not the certainty, but the invitation. We name what we cannot yet explain. We measure what we cannot yet define. We accept that some answers take generations to unfold. And that's okay. Tonight, your mind does not reach for a conclusion. It rests in the question. It watches the stars grow faint with distance, and knows that something, some force, some field, some unfathomable whisper, is moving them still. And as you drift into sleep, the theories soften around you, not as puzzles to solve, but as songs to hum. Their rhythm carries you forward, toward the final wonder of the night. If dark energy shapes the end of the universe, what does that end look like? You are still. You are floating. And the universe around you has grown vast. So vast that light itself struggles to find you. You have followed dark energy from its gentle beginnings, through supernovae and redshift, through equations and echoes. And now, at last, you arrive at the horizon of time. The far future. The quietest ending. It does not come suddenly. There is no great collapse. No flash, no roar. This is not the drama of destruction, but the hush of departure. A farewell whispered across unfathomable distances. Dark energy keeps working. Slowly, softly. It stretches space so far that galaxies lose sight of one another. Every home of stars becomes an island, adrift in an ever-deepening ocean of space. You imagine a night sky in that future, above a distant world. The stars are few, the darkness vast. There are no swirling clusters, no shimmering hint of other galaxies. Just emptiness, still expanding. The last stars burn for a while, but even they must dim. In billions upon billions of years, all stars will exhaust their fuel. The cosmos will lose its light. Not in tragedy, but in inevitability. There will be no more heat to share. No more fusion to spark. Just cold remnants of what once was. Black dwarfs, neutron stars, lonely planets. This is the heat death of the universe. Not cold in temperature alone, but cold in potential. Everything has happened. Every gradient has flattened. Every exchange is done. The cosmos, now, is quiet. Uniform. Still. You might think of this as an end. But lying here, you feel something different. It's not an ending in the way you know it. It is more like a sigh. A long, slow exhale. After everything that could happen has already passed. Even time itself begins to feel strange. Without change. Without energy moving. What does it mean to count moments? Still, something persists. Particles decay. Black holes evaporate, dropping faint whispers of energy into the emptiness. Even these giants cannot last forever. And after eons upon eons, what remains is space. Dark, cold, expanding, but not empty. Not entirely, because in that vast stillness, the memory of motion lingers. The shape of what once was remains written in the fabric of space-time. The stretch that began with dark energy has become the silence after the symphony. A kind of cosmic peace. And in that peace, there is no fear, no rush, no noise. Just being. You might wonder what the purpose of such a future is. But perhaps the purpose is not in the end, but in the journey. All that time, all that expansion, all that scattering, gave rise to stars, to life, to thought, to you, right now, lying beneath it all. This is the quietest truth. The universe is temporary, but wonder is not. Wonder survives, because someone was here to ask the questions. Someone listened to the redshift. Someone followed the photons. Someone reached through silence to name the unknown. And as you lie here, bathed in the faint echo of all that once was, you realize that even in the quietest ending, there is beauty, because to know the end is to appreciate the middle, to feel the weight of moments before they fade. And you are in one now. A moment. One of infinite significance. The stars may go out, but you have seen them. The galaxies may vanish, but you have traced their paths. Dark energy may unmake the sky, but you have walked its soft, expanding edge. You carry the memory of light. And in that memory, there is warmth. There is meaning. There is a kind of beginning. So you let your breath slow, your body sink, your thoughts drift into the gentle dark, where all that ever was still echoes softly. And just before sleep takes you, one last quiet question rises. If the universe ends in silence, does the story still go on in us?